the pictures turn out yesterday?
I haven't looked at them yet.
All right, y'all good with this? Okay, when you've got a voltaic cell, for instance, if we did zinc plus Cu in a battery, and we did something like zinc goes from and then the copper so what this would involve is having a zinc solution in one side, one beaker, and a copper solution, copper sulfate, in the other solution. And what's being where oxidation takes place is called the anode. And you're going to have a cathode where the reduction is taking place. Or you've got electrons being used. The anode is where oxidation takes place. Or electrons being produced. So one side's making electrons, one side's using those electrons. But it's not until we add something, like a piece of wire, that acts as a salt bridge that allows the electrons to actually move back and forth. So this puppy can make electrons all day long, but unless it's got a mechanism for coming across, they can't get here to be used. And for instance, when we add the zinc, if we add zinc sulfate, and over here if we add sulfate as well, copper sulfate, then it's the sulfate, the salt part of it, that would become the bridge and allow the anodes and cathode, or the electrons, to transfer back and forth. That's basically how a battery works. It's basically how your brain works too. If your brain is, do it? If you don't have enough water in your body to disassociate the ions, if you don't have the free ions, then they won't conduct electricity. That's why we've got, when we do the solutions, you can't just take zinc. Zinc comes as a solid, right? You can't just take zinc, and you can't just take copper sulfate and put them on either side and expect the electrons to transfer back and forth. You've got to put it in solution. You've got to have that disassociation, because it's the ions that actually conduct the electricity. That's why when you get dehydrated, what happens? If I'm a runner here, right? If I'm a runner and I've run a marathon, but I haven't consumed enough water, what happens? I mean, what physically happens? You guys ever watched the Boston Marathon and seen people go down?
Muscles cramp.
Well, but yes, your muscles cramp, but what's starting to happen is the electricity that goes through your body, and we all are electricity. The water's not sufficient enough to cause the salts in our body to disassociate. If we don't have those ions, if we don't have the salt bridge, then we're not going to be able to conduct the electricity that we need, and our involuntary system starts shutting down. You start getting disoriented. You start getting confused. You start having breathing problems. You start having heart problems. You could end up like Mr. Justice, who died from a massive heart attack after running a 5K. as he crossed the finish line.
That was wild.
Yeah.
It's a
What are
big
the anode
shocker.
and the cathode for?
Those are, it's like in a car battery. The anode produces the electrons. The cathode takes up the electrons. So that you can actually have the transfer of electrons, and it's that motion, the movement of the electrons that produces the power in the battery. So. There are other types of batteries, I'll let you guys read about that if you want.
Yeah, talk about the lithium-ion batteries, because they're great.
Yeah, I really don't know that much about the lithium. Did you guys notice what kind of batteries they had up there? You remember when I was kind of poking around and I said, oh, look, batteries. Those are nickel cadmium batteries.
Mm.
Can you overcharge those?
Do what?
Are those the ones you can overcharge?
I think so. But the lithium, the way it tends to work, or it seems to work, actually, it looks like you got a pretty good. The difference is that the lithium is the anode, not zinc. Alright. So in a lithium battery, you've got lithium here instead of zinc. Lithium, think about lithium compared to zinc on the periodic chart. Lithium has an atomic weight of what?
3, isn't it?
Atomic number of 3.
Oh.
Atomic weight of 7. Zinc's got a atomic number of, is it 30?
Yeah,
30 and weighs 65. So the lithium, the advantage to the lithium is that it's less dense. It's a smaller element, so we can make the battery smaller and get just as much energy, just as much transfer of electrons across, but with a smaller amount of material. And that's what you've got in your Prius, right? Don't you have a Prius?
Mm-hmm.
And in a lithium battery that's in the Prius?
I know it's an $8,000 battery.
It's an $8,000 battery. It's an expensive as hell battery.
Yeah.
But they're smaller, so ultimately you've got less material going to the landfill when the battery does die. And they can charge you $8,000 to replace it.
Yeah. They
But
said
it takes what? Those batteries last what? 5 years?
They said that would be the repair I did in 10 years is I would have to replace the battery.
10 years.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, think about how long your regular car battery lasts.
I have 2
Those
on my
things are
car.
like really high voltage too, like they have orange wires all over them to keep people from messing with them.
Do they?
Yeah, cause they're like really high.
Yeah, they're high.
amps,
You have 2 batteries on yours? What kind of car is it?
It's a Chrysler 300. I don't know if it's because of all the navigation, the screen in it, but I have
Oh,
one
okay.
in my trunk where my tire is, and I have one that I guess operates the motor and everything. They're both big batteries too.
So they're probably the regular zinc.
A lot of diesel
Mhm.
trucks have 2 batteries in them, they run them in parallel.
But yours, I mean, what's so cool about I think about the lithiums as well is they charge easier. So you guys know how a Prius works? Have you ever kind of looked at the schematic? It's when, if I'm right, but it's when you apply your brakes that it's generating energy.
It has a little gauge that shows you when you're charging it up too, so.
So it's when you're applying pressure to the brakes, and I guess it's that friction or the decrease in energy as you're slowing down that charges the battery. And how many miles do you go on a gallon of gas?
Like 60, something like that.
Can you imagine that? 60 miles to the gallon?
They got a couple fully electric cars though.
Leaf.
But
The Leaf, yeah.
Yeah, you can't
But you
go
can't
on
go
road
far.
trips with them though, you'll get stranded pretty much, you know.
Well, yeah, cause there's no place to just charge them in, plug them in and
They
charge them
said-
up.
I had it on the news, it's like $3 every time you plug it up, fully charge it's $3.
I'd be afraid my electric bill would go
Well, like,
Sky.
if you ever look on like a hybrid or electric, they have like, they still have miles to gallon that it would cost for electricity for it.
Well, and that's the thing with the electric cars are great, but you're still ultimately burning coal to produce the electricity, or using fossil fuels to produce the electricity. Now, if you could get an alternate source of energy to charge the car, I bet you could run a car on, I bet you could do that from your septic tank. I bet that would be enough, maybe not to run your house, but it could be to charge your car.
I would say bring like magnetic generators over here, cause they have like motorcycles in Japan that run off magnets and stuff.
And you know the guy that did the Segway?
Yeah.
You know that guy, the Earl of Dumpling?
I didn't know how it's made.
Well, he's got one of those engines that is ready to be used in a vehicle. Car manufacturers won't let it. It's just like electric cars have been around for probably 30 years. The technology.
Yeah.
But the car lobbyists won't, the
I heard
oil
they
lobbyists
mass
won't let you.
produced electric cars up until the 1930s.
Mhm.
And then they quit making.
Because they found, they got greedy. And the oil people won't let the new technology, the lobbyists won't let the new technology in, because then, you know, Dick Cheney might lose a few $1 million.
I can't remember. Several later, GMC had an electric car in the 90s that was letting people try out, and then they, like on lease, and then they took them all back and crushed them all.
They've got cars or little vehicles that you can actually fold up into the size of a briefcase.
Sounds pretty cool.
Is it a heavy briefcase?
Well, because the car's mostly aluminum, so it's not real heavy. Or plastic, aluminum and plastic, so it's not real heavy. You can fold it up and take it with you.
A clown car.
Just want the Batmobile, and just like shoot out the side of a motorcycle.
All right, I will post your tests before I leave tonight. And if you have any questions, we'll address them on Monday. I will be at the library 1:30 to 6 on Sunday. If you guys are interested. Otherwise, like I said, I'll have the test posted. It'll be due Tuesday unless you get it to some real, you know, bind and give it Wednesday, I don't care.
Which library?
The public library on Macon Road.
The great
Okay, I
big
know
one?
where that is.
The big one where they're doing all the construction. And you
Yeah.
can't, every time I forget, I try to go in my back entrance. Do what?
What are they building there?
They're building a new government building apparently or something. Board of Education building.
It's a monument.
There's some big issues going on, I don't know if you guys are aware, but big issues going on with the Board of Education here. There's a silent group, an anonymous group that is putting out commercials to
I've
boot
seen
the
those,
board.
yeah.
And nobody really knows who they are,
Hmm.
but they're trying to get
Probably somebody on the
Phillips
board.
and everybody out. What?
It's probably somebody on the board.
They fired my old principal, Mr. Crumbs, and then like.
Is that the black guy that showed the movie?
Yeah, but
With the-
I think he got his job back. He showed.
He showed him a comedy video.
What's his name? Tater's son.
Yeah, Ron White.
Yeah.
Telling the teacher, it was the guy's stand-up routine saying you can't fix stupid, and the point of showing the video was so that he could tell his teachers, we can fix stupid. But parents heard about it. He didn't show it to children, he didn't show it to students, he showed it after school at a teacher meeting. And parents heard about it and got super mad because that's inappropriate.
He caught me skipping so many times.
Breathing can be inappropriate.